Hi, and welcome to the Kessel Rundown podcast. I'm Ethan,
And I'm Hunter.
and we are finally returned after a few weeks off. We're going to be going over the first arc of the Andor series, so episodes 1 through 3 that premiered all at once last week, 2 weeks ago, I guess.
Yes, and I was one of the insane people that stayed up and watched the entire thing and went to work the next morning.
Oh my.
So it's kind of foggy in my head, but I went back through Wikipedia and wrote down some of the big players and all the key things that kind of happened so we can go over that.
Yeah, I watched so many reaction videos and breakdowns that I feel like I watched them like 3 times each. So, uh I'm definitely ready, but we are not going to be touching on episodes 4 or 5, which have been released by the time of that you're going to hear this or watch us on YouTube, I guess. We'll be covering episodes 4 through 6 next week once the final episode of this arc comes out. If you're caught up on the show, you know that episodes 4 and 5 are kind of setting up this big heist with Cassian. So we're not going to cover any of that. We're going to stop at the end of episode 3, which was basically Luthen and Cassian flying off to join whatever rebellion he's got going on. So we're excited to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. We haven't discussed this between us, but I think that's probably the best way to break down this series is in threes.
Yes,
So
for sure.
it's going to be, a 12 episode season. Is it 12 or 16?
It's
It's
12.
16, right?
It's 12.
Oh, okay.
So four
Okay. So
arcs. Yeah.
after every arc, we're going to come back and discuss everything and see it as a bigger picture because once you see these episodes, they kind of play out as a full movie.
Yeah, and they're man, I'm so glad they released the first 3 at once cuz the slow burn,
Oh, yeah.
this show is basically a gosh, I don't even know what to compare it to. Kind of like Lost, very very slowly developing story,
Hmm.
but it there's always some sort of cliffhanger or man, can't wait till next week kind of thing at the end. So I'm glad they released all 3 at once so that we could kind of get used to that storytelling because it's
Hmm.
pretty new from Star Wars. We haven't seen a lot of those shows.
That's true. So I don't know if I'm the only one that caught this, but episodes 1 and 2 and even 4, they end very abruptly, like very like weirdly. Have you caught on? It's just like I feel like it's not going to end. Then all of a sudden, I see the title, like the end
Yeah,
credits.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
I,
weird.
I think
So
that's
it's
part
meant to be
of
watched as a yeah.
yeah, that's part of the arc. They're constructing these Clone Wars esque arcs here that
Hmm.
if you're lucky enough to maybe you come into the series later, you can binge 3 at a time. But for most of us, we're going to be waiting 1 week at a time. But yeah, episodes 1 and 2, it's kind of like, oh, here's the end. And, click over to the next one because they released all 3 at once. And then, but episode 4 and now 5 that just came out, it's agonizing to wait, but it's incredible. The TV is incredible that we're
It
getting, Hunter. I
is.
mean, it's such high quality.
Mm.
Before we dive into the details of the first 3 episodes, I just wanted to get your take. I think we're on the same page here, but I just want to get your take on how amazing this show looks and the writing in this show and how much better it is than other shows.
Yeah, like not to sound funny, but it feels like we're on a totally different planet than Kenobi and everything else that came before it. It's just so
Yeah.
well. It probably has to go to say like it goes because the director and the showrunner Tony Gilroy. I mean, he's known for some great stuff, and he has vision. Not saying that like Deborah Chow and like Dave Filoni they don't have the backing because they do, but I don't know. It's just it's like something different. Like this is the Sopranos of Star Wars. It feels dark and
Mm,
gritty, and
yeah,
it just
it's a good comp.
hits right.
Yeah.
Also, I was gonna say earlier, whenever you said like waiting for a new episode is agonizing. Sometimes I wish that I'm like somehow I get frozen for like maybe 100 years, and I wake up and all I have to do is binge every single thing Star Wars has come out with the last 100 years. I think about that all the time because I'm like, man, like let me just think of all the movies that came out, all the TV shows that came out. That'd be so fun just to spend a whole entire just year just binging through Star Wars. That's my fantasy. That's my dream. But yeah, I digress on that weird little tangent. Um, yeah, it's Andor is so different than anything we've seen before because they're not using the volume. It feels alive and different,
Oh,
especially in episode 4 and 5. But yeah, these first three, man, it's just, oh man, quality is so high,
yeah, it
crazy.
turns out, as we predicted and as everyone else was noting when we saw the trailers, using real sets and real landscapes for your television show makes it look way better than using uh a universal parking lot studio, right? So
Hmm.
it's no matter how good the technology is, you can't replicate real life. And having uh you know well, I guess this is in episode 4, so I won't get to this, but it was in the trailer. Vel and Caspian hiking through what we know is like the Scottish Highlands, right? Um, though that looks incredible compared to like Obi-Wan and Leia, which we made fun of them because it looked like they were in like Las Vegas, like outside of Las Vegas in the desert, right? It was like, this is just Northern California. This is not another planet. But
Hmm.
even in the first 3 episodes, we see the town that Cassian lives in Ferrix on Ferrix. It's like they built that like that is a real set. You can tell. Uh,
Yeah,
and we'll get to some of the details as we go through each episode, but I was just struck by all the practical effects that there were. Um, I'm sure they use CGI like the chains and stuff falling, but I mean,
yeah.
man, that it's everything looks so practical and you can tell they built these models and I was
Mhm.
so impressed.
Also, before we get into our breakdown, I am shocked that the trailers that came out for Andor, most of the things we've seen in the trailers happen in the first 3 episodes. So I'm thinking like maybe like 60% of the trailer is the first 3 episodes.
Yeah,
So we
that's
still
usually
have,
how it works.
yeah, but it's just like crazy, you know? It's like we have so much that we don't know, and it has me so excited for the rest of the season. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get into the first 3 episodes. We're gonna
Yeah.
cover them as a whole. We're not really gonna go episode to episode because it's a whole arc.
Yeah,
So
it
we
kind of
start off
kind of
with
plays out like a
Andor. What's
2-hour
up?
movie. Sorry. It kind of plays
Yeah,
out like a
it
2-hour
does.
movie when you sit and watch it in one sitting and it flows really well. So we're not going to be, now on to episode 2 and on to episode 3. It just story-wise it flows. So, um
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
let's talk about the very beginning of our story though.
Yes. So we see Cassian. He's walking through the this like red light district, and
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot what planet he's on. Is it Morlana 1 or
Morlana
is
1.
it
Yes.
Yeah, he's on Morlana 1. He's walking through this like red light district, and I like how the first scene kind of sets the tone for the series because he's like walking into a brothel. You don't
Mhm.
really see that. You're not going to see that in any other Star Wars media. And he's asking around for his sister that we find out, and through flashbacks we find out that he was separated from his sister. But yeah, he's looking for her. It looks like he's been looking for her ever since he was taken, and some pre-more security inspection officers don't like the looks of him because he's in this little city section without his ID. It's just a corporate like overlord like ugh, it's just it's what I imagine America becoming if we still keep going down this path. It's just like corporate zones, corporate cities, because he's not allowed in there without his ID. So,
Well,
eventually he gets harassed. What's up?
oh, I was just gonna say the cops at the bar kind of reminded me of Ponda Baba in episode 4 with
Oh yeah.
you just give them a wrong look, like a little glance, and they're like, "What are you talking to me?" And they get up and they're all mad, like
Hmm.
yeah, they're just picking
He doesn't like
fights.
you either.
Yeah,
I don't like you. Yeah, they follow Cassian out of the brothel, and then a little scuffle happens, and one of them just eats the concrete really hard, and like I think it just like snaps his neck or something
yeah.
because he doesn't
We're
really.
really not sure how he died, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's just like an accident. He slipped and like after he got pushed, and
Yeah.
his neck just went. Crazy stuff like that happens, and unfortunately that happened. And the other one's like begging for his life. He's like, "Yo, we can fix this. Like, it didn't happen this way." And Cassian just murders him.
Just dusted him. It remember in Rogue One, the first time we meet Cassian, he kills an informant. I mean, he gets his
Hmm.
information. The guy's like, "I can't climb because my arm is broken," and Cassian shoots him. Like,
Tough.
no remorse, right? In this, we see him pause a little bit, but you can tell this is not the first time he has shot someone in the face. Like,
Hmm.
he is so cold blooded in his actions that you can kind of tell he's done it before. But it shows that he kind of hesitates a little bit. But ultimately, I mean, he pulls the trigger. He doesn't knock him out and run away like most Star Wars, whether it's animated shows or The Mandalorian. Like, you don't see
Hmm.
the protagonist of the show just like murder an authority figure.
Yeah, it
You
sends
know,
a
it
big message.
yeah, it sends the message right away in the first 5 minutes of the show, that this show is not gonna be like other Star Wars shows. Like, you
Nope.
better watch out. And it's dark and grimy and it's raining and he's literally walking out of a brothel and like, man, is this Blade Runner? Like, what is this? Is
Yeah, that's one thing I thought of. Like it's looked exactly like Blade Runner. I was waiting for like Harrison Ford to jump out, but nope. Han Solo's not here. So yeah, we see Morlana one. It's part of the Morlani system, which is kind of ruled by this Pre-Mor Security Bureau. It's like a corporate headquarters. The Empire lets them control their little sector of planets and kind of have like a corporate rule over these planets. And Ferrix is part of the Morlani system. So the Pre-Mor security team, they have clearance to go on Ferrix, but they're not centralized on Ferrix, but it's still part of their system. So they can easily go over there without having to get Imperial jurisdiction to go over there. And the Empire kind of lets them do their own thing as long as they don't mess up. And we see them mess up, and it doesn't really go well for them after that. But before we jump in for Andor going into Ferrix, I just want to go over the Morlani um, corporate system. We meet Cyril Karn, who is like the Dwight Schrute of this show. He's so like goal driven and just corporate minded. He wants to hit these milestones and these goals for just the love and praise, and just like he wants to be the top guy. We see him meeting his boss early on, and Cyril, he wants to go after whoever killed these two guards, because to him it's a big deal. But to everyone else, they were in a place they weren't supposed to be, and they just kind of want to sweep it under the rug. And Cyril, he goes against those orders, and he wants to go find him, which ends up very bad for him. But yeah, I really like the idea of different kind of government systems in Star Wars. You kind of see the Empire, and that's about it during this time. So it's cool to see other like sub governments kind of running around with their head cut off, trying to figure out what to do, while the Empire kind of has the puppet strings.
right. And at this point, the empire's growing, right? It's not at its
Hmm.
peak yet. I would say while it's building the Death Star slash right when they complete it is like the peak of the empire. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, but it's building still, right? It's been a few years since Revenge of the Sith. What is this, 4 BBY? Is this where we are? So
Yes,
it's been
yes.
15 years since Revenge of the Sith?
Yes, because a lot of they say 13 years ago, like a lot in episode 4 and 5, talking
Okay.
about how when the Empire first got to this
So
planet or whatever.
so
Bless you.
they're
Yeah.
pretty strong, but the Imperial Senate is still intact, right? So there's still some checks and
Yes,
balances.
yes.
Um, there's still some checks and
It hasn't been dissolved
balances.
yet.
Yeah, that we'll see the dissolution of the Senate probably in season 2. Um,
Mhm.
but so they're letting these corporate sectors run on their own. You know, it's kind of like a um, I don't trying to think of it. It's kind of like a lord, you know, letting one of his underlings like run their own kingdom, and they just
Yeah.
report and give tribute kind of thing, right? Um,
Mhm.
it's kind of like a fiefdom. Remember we learned about that in school, like
Mhm.
the small lords or whatever. So um, eventually, as we see later in the series, they're going to start replacing these corporate sectors or you know senate controlled systems with governors and moffs and prefects and consolidate
Mhm.
power and they all report to the emperor, right? That's eventually what's coming, and we see it
Yeah.
slowly happening in the series. But I found it interesting just the bureaucracy that we start to see in this. I
Mhm.
never really thought about imperial bureaucracy besides like Grand Moff Tarkin and Darth Vader. You know what I mean? So it's really
Yeah,
interesting to see
it's
that.
yeah, they're just looking for, like, one small thing. Like, if they mess up just once, like, "Oh, we're gonna take over this operation because 'cause y'all
Right.
can't handle it." They do the same thing in the Vader comic to, Mon Cala. Like, in the Vader comic, they send over this Imperial kinda like a peacekeeper over to Mon Cala to negotiate, peace treaties, and the Empire blows and kills their own guy and blames it on the Mon Cala, and they're like, "Well, you did that, so now we gotta invade and take over the city."
Right.
And that's whenever, the Mon Cala are like, "We're gonna peace out," and they fly off with their home spaceships, and it's a really cool origin if you want to read that. But that's the Vader comic. We'll get back to Andor. But yeah, it's really cool. They're just looking for small things that they mess up on. They're gonna jump at each time it happens. But do you want to get back to
Yeah.
Cassian back on Ferrix?
So yeah, we see a little bit of Cassian's life, right, bartering with the guy in the hangar, and um I'm trying to remember what order things go in, but in general, in episode 1, we get to see his
It's
life built
yeah.
up, right? We get to see he's a kind of a petty thief. He's stolen this it reminds me of one of those police scanners. Um
Oh, it's a NS9 Star Path unit.
yeah, I have no idea what that means, but that is what it's called.
Me either.
I
It's
think
a it I th- it like highlights Imperial movement.
yes.
I remember in the show he's like it highlights Imperial movement within 9 parsecs. So I mean
So
that's a lot.
basically they can kind of like the police scanner thing I was saying, like uh
Yeah.
he can know, okay, kind of like troop movements of where are they going to send this garrison, where are they going to deploy these construction resources, what planets are they trying to mine, you know, right now. So that's a huge, I mean that's a gigantic like get, right? And he just stole that on his own.
Hmm.
But now he's looking to sell it, right? So he meets with Bix. We get introduced with his old girlfriend, I guess. I don't know if she's like they had a
Yeah,
thing.
there was something there.
Yeah.
And we
Um,
also get introduced to Bix's new flame, Tim. And it's a Star Wars name because there's two M's, not just one
yeah,
M.
it can't be normal.
It's really futuristic.
Yeah. So, yeah, Tim is like a little like suspicious of their relationship, right? And we get,
Hmm.
I just love the like ground level details that we're getting of you know, like Tim and Bix hook up once a week, like it's like a booty call
Yeah.
situation, but there's really not a relationship. And she's also like a secret rebel, and he just wants to live. And like those kinds of things are not explored normally in Star Wars, and I really appreciated that
No, no.
detail in the storytelling.
And I appreciate how the story starts so small and it ends up
Hmm.
with we see this guy who's struggling to make ends meet, kind of just he's working off of favors, not even money. He doesn't even have money. He's just like, "Hey, I'll get you back if you give me this, and like if you let me borrow your spaceship, I'll bring you something back." And then we see him end up saving the entire galaxy. It's such an interesting way to start this.
Yeah, yeah, just Andor's like or Cassian's he has no money, like his whole thing is trading favors like you said, and ultimately that's going to
Yeah.
escalate to like, you know, the ultimate
Yeah.
ask, which is, "Hey, go steal the Death Star plans." So,
Yeah.
uh, just to move along here in the story, we basically Surreal Karn, the deputy inspector or whatever, he goes off on his own against his boss's wishes and starts an investigation, starts a manhunt for Cassian.
Mhm.
Somehow they find an old an old mugshot maybe of his, maybe from when he was in
Yes,
prison or something.
and, yeah, he talks about how he served on, Mimban. It's the same place that, Han served in, Solo, his
Okay,
swamp planet.
yeah.
Yeah.
So his story
But he was
keeps
also in an Imperial's facility too,
his
as well,
story
like,
keeps
when he was, like,
changing.
13.
Yeah, his story keeps
Yeah,
changing about what he was doing when he was a teenager. So we're really not sure yet. But he was a
we'll find out.
prisoner, we think, of some kind, and
Mhm.
and yeah, at first he's like, "Oh, I was part of the rebellion there, like the breakout," but really he just like escaped.
Yeah.
And he was like a cook or something. Anyways,
Yeah.
so he has that mugshot, so Cyril Karn is able to, you know, send that out to his underlings who all hate him, which is hilarious because he's actually making them do work. It's so funny the bureaucratic like scenes that we get, and then we get the super Scottish guy Linus, is that his name? Who's like
Linus Mosk, it kinda sounds like you have something in the back of your throat every
yeah.
time you say his name.
There's fomenting out there, sir. Pockets of fomenting.
Fermenting.
So yeah, we get to see the kind of group effort of a bunch of way too dedicated cops, right? Trying to take down Andor, and that's pretty much the first. That's the setup and the and most of the second episode, and it's you know I just love the small scale uh, storytelling that we get here
Mhm.
from the corporate side. Do you want to talk about Luthen? I guess, or is it jumping too far ahead?
No, I think, jumping to Luthen, we can do that. We can also talk about Marva, Andor's, adoptive mother, but, we'll get both of those. Luthen, we don't really know much about him whenever we first see him. All we know is that he's Bix's contact. We don't know do we know how Bix and
No,
Luthen are.
no.
Yeah, so we see, Bix at the end of episode 1, she's getting into contact with Luthen, and Luthen comes down initially to get the Star Path unit, but he sets his minds on getting Cassian for this heist job. Um, and he kind of goes undercover. He parks his starship kind of further out and takes this really like this commuter shuttle into
Mhm.
town where he sits next to this guy with this really cool mustache and just talking about how like everything you want can be found on Ferrix, blah blah blah. Blah. This really simple-minded look into this huge galaxy. And Luthen, we later find out Luthen, he's a collector of antiquities on Coruscant. He's seen this galaxy, so he's just kind of letting this guy uh, live
Bluster.
his little
Yeah.
fantasy. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
he's
like,
just letting him go
"No,
off.
not everything you can find is,
Yeah,
on Ferrix. I actually have an Utapowan monk cudgel in my house." Yeah, that was
yeah.
not from
So
Ferrix.
exactly. Yeah, he finally gets to Cassian at this old like ironworks type thing. I don't even know what that place was. I don't even know what they were building because there's so many chains and weights. I don't know what kind of factory that was. But yeah, they talk and they want the Starpath unit, and Luthen really just asked Cassian. He's like, "How did you get it?" He wants to know how Cassian got this Starpath unit. Not really the Starpath unit, but like how he did it. And
Mhm.
Cassian tells Luthen, um, if you just pretend to be part of them, they're never going to think that. They're never going to think that you're one of them if you just pretend to go along with everything because they're so fat and lazy. Um, they think so highly of themselves. They're never going to think that someone like him would be able to infiltrate. And that's basically what he did. He just threw on a uniform, walked in and stole it, and walked out. Probably.
Yeah, yeah, we don't get to see that heist, which I think is good. But there's no sense in
Hmm.
they're trying to build this story slowly, and I think just saying, "Oh yeah, I stole this," is like a really cool way of adding some mystique to Cassian. Like, oh man, he must be really good. He stole this like super valuable thing, and we don't even like that's like such a minor thing to him. We don't even get to see it. Um,
Hmm.
so I think obviously there's a pretty pretty well established motif of like character from humble beginnings meets person who knows more about the galaxy, and they take them away to experience the world and they find their true destiny, right? That's like a like luke um
Yeah, that's
Luke and
episode 4.
Obi-Wan, right? Like Ray and meeting Finn and Poe, right? And Harry meeting Dumbledore, right? That's like a or Harry meeting Hagrid, like that's like a
Hmm.
pretty established thing. And so, yes, the Luthen Cassian thing is like that, but Cassian's already seen a lot. Um,
Yeah.
and one of the cool things about these episodes is that it kind of paints Cassian as like a well traveled, well uh he can handle himself, right? He's not this hopeless, angry rebel that needs to be taught the a big truth about the force, Uh he's a killer, and he's very smart. He's great with his resources. He's seen a lot. We find out his father was hung in the town square. He's
Yep.
he was basically like an orphan in two different ways in his life. Once on Canary, and once, before that, whenever he left wherever he was born. Right, that he has been through it, so he doesn't need someone to come teach him about life. He needs something to fight for, I guess. Um, and I really enjoyed what Luthen said. Do you want to give it all at once for something that matters? Or chop off, what does he say, like chop off parts at a time that mean nothing, basically.
I think so.
Yeah, basically. I'm trying to find that quote here. Basically, do you want to uh, give yourself for something that matters, you know or you're gonna die anyways fighting the empire, so like why would you do
Yeah.
it in for like petty thievery, So I just really
Do it for something
enjoyed the
big.
kind of, yeah, I really enjoyed the twist on the classic like hero finds his purpose kind of thing. It was
Mhm.
more of like an anti-hero tweaks their vision to find out how to,
Exactly.
that their killing and thievery will mean something instead of mean nothing. It just Cassian is not going to change as a person.
No, there's no good guys in this show.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, you should expand on that because that's, I think, is a really interesting idea.
Yeah, so there are really no good people in this show. We Cassian, he's probably the this is gonna terrible English, but he's the goodest guy we've seen.
Yeah.
In it's probably gonna be it because we're gonna see the likes of Saw Gerrera and the Imperial Senate on this show. So he's our moral compass right now, which is terrifying because this man just shot a guy in the face in cold blood,
Yeah, yeah,
and he's the guy we're rooting for.
yeah,
It just really sets the tone for this series and for the rebellion as well, because you can't start a rebellion. I mean, we've tried to start a rebellion off of good intentions, but we saw how that ended up. So we really have to kind of hit the empire where it hurts, and hitting them where it hurts. It's dirty work, very dirty work. Because like right now they're in episode 4 and 5, not to get into it, but they're stealing the payroll for an entire sector, and there's innocent people in this space that they're probably going to have to kill, but the rebellion has to do the dirty work for to for it to rise to the ranks. So there's, like I said, there's no good people in this show. There's just people with questionable morality.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what am I trying to say here? The the disturbing things about these characters, uh, that they don't necessarily have a moral compass. They're just fighting dirty to win
Hmm.
something that we see as good, but like they're fighting dirty to win freedom. They're all like miniature Saw Gerreras, right?
Yep.
There's no pure. I mean, maybe Mon Mothma, but there's really no pure character here. There's no Luke Skywalker that is like this bastion of
No.
morality, you know.
Yeah.
There's no like white light, uh, hero. It's just it it's war, man. It's
It's
guerrilla
murky. Yeah.
warfare. It's Saw Gerrera's men setting off bombs and transports, on um
Hmm.
in Rogue One, right? It's um jumping out of the bushes to shoot a garrison down that is just walking by, right? It's that kind of stuff
Yeah.
and that wins wars. So I'm excited to see
It
more of that
does.
as we go on.
And if the trailers indicate anything, we're in for a lot. But let's get back to Marva. And when we talk about Marva, we can talk about the flashbacks as well. Marva is the woman who quote unquote adopted Cassian. Abducted him is probably the better word for it,
Yeah.
but
Abducted
it's his
him with
adoptive
with a
mother.
good intention.
Yes, that's yeah, that's true. Kind of like these white families that adopt kids from Africa.
Oh
Okay, they
boy.
have good intentions, but that's just questionable morality, like I said. Um, but anyways, so she does that. We see her in the later parts of her life, in the present. Kind of like the whole town on Ferrix kind of looks after her. B2, the family droid, really charming, by the way. I love the boxy
Mhm.
look of the droid. Um, we first see him, he's grabbing medicine for Marva, that was given to her just from people around the town, and how Cassian, he says that like Marva likes it like what, hot in their house or whatever. Like, don't forget, like Marva needs the temperature hot, or like she can't sleep, something like that.
Yeah.
So she's very weak and frail, but in the flashbacks, we see her as like this scavenger, this
Mhm.
smuggler. We learned that her husband, Clem Andor, was her partner in crime, really, and he was hung by the Empire in the town square, which probably sparked a lot of Cassian's like, um, not like it sparked his like rebellious side, if
Maybe his violent
and if
side.
any.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he always had a rebellious side, but his violence, his need to do something against the Empire, no matter how dirty it is, it kind of came out. Um, but yeah, she lives on Ferrix with B2 EMO, and
B2
she doesn't
emo,
really have
huh?
control. Yeah, B2 emo,
Yeah, and he's kind of
really,
he's
really
kind
funny
of
name.
I mean, he's not depressed, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like right on the nose. George Lucas always
Yeah,
makes
he breaks
these.
down everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So talking about the flashback, we can get into that. It's these kids. It's a colony of kids on this planet, Canary.
Canary, yeah.
Yeah, as we see, we're kind of getting into speculation right now, but there's no adults in this tribe. It's just kids, which kind of makes me think that either there was a crash landing on this planet, or there was like a failed colony and all the adults died, and it just left the
Yeah.
kids, and the kids had to like kind of Lord of the Flies, their own kind of community in their own language
So
in their own way. Yeah.
yeah, so we're pretty much I got a little bit left in episode 3 as far as present day goes, but we
Hmm.
haven't it's the first time we're getting into the flashbacks here, but um the what I think so this is during the Clone Wars, right? This because this it's a separatist ship that crashes that we see in episode
This
2.
is I heard that this is actually a few years before the Clone Wars.
Then who was wasn't that a separatist insignia in the ship, the one that Casa like beats up with his staff later?
Yes. So the separatist movement, it was a movement before the Clone Wars.
Right.
The Clone Wars was just the escalation of the army being made and the Republic taking action. The separatists were still a thing beforehand. So yeah, if you want to go into your
But doesn't that
speculation, but
ship does the
I
ship get shot down though? The transport that crashes, it doesn't it get shot down above
we
them?
don't I don't think we know what happened to it. I
Okay.
think we all I the only thing we know is that it crash landed and the Republic was coming in to assess the damages.
Okay. So, what I think happened, I don't think it was a failed colony. I think it was um these kids wherever their home planet was. I think Cassian was not from Canary. I think he was from a different planet. And I think what something
Mhm.
happened on that planet that pushed them to go to this one. And this one apparently had been mined out to its max because there's no other animals there, let alone people.
Yeah.
Uh, and so the kids are there for whatever reason, like you said, could have been, the adults just all died. It could have been the kids escaped after their parents were killed on a different planet. That's kind of what I think happened. Um,
Mm.
the kids are all there trying to survive. And then this ship crashes, all hell breaks loose for them, right? The oldest girl gets killed, whatever. Um, but we hear later Canary was destroyed in a mining disaster. So just big picture, like, is that just an imperial lie? Because they
It
just
has to
don't
be.
don't want anyone to go there because it already looks like it was mined out. It doesn't look like they
Yeah.
could have mined any more. Those mining
No, it
disaster
it it
things are
has to be.
always lies, right? So
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Every time we hear mining disaster, like mining disaster on Jeddah, there was a mining disaster on Scarif. It's just yeah, it's all imperial cover-ups and lies. So there's we're gonna figure out what
so
happened, but for right now, it's just speculation. It's the Empire did something,
that was gonna
or
be
the
my
Separatists
that
did
was gonna be
something.
my
Who knows?
question. Yeah, it could be a separatist thing, but that was gonna be my question was,
Yeah.
are we gonna see more flashbacks beyond the first? It doesn't look like we're gonna get any in episode 6. So are we gonna get more in the next
Well,
arc? Because
I have my theories, Ethan. I have my theories, like I always do. I believe we're gonna get some more flashbacks. In the trailer, we saw clones in clone armor. So I believe that we're after this flashback that we had with like this kid, Casa. We're gonna jump probably into Cassian's earlier life on Ferrix. And we're probably going to see the death of Klim Andor, how he was hung in the town square by clones, probably. Because, yeah, in the trailer, we saw a figure that looks like Klim um, raise a bat to these clone troopers on Ferrix, and they kind of turn their blasters toward him. So, yeah, I think it's really just going to show the there's always two sides in a war, no matter where you're at. This could probably even be um, before the empire is formed, because uh, as we saw that as we heard that Andor's Cassian's family was on the separatist side of the Clone Wars. They weren't on the side of the Republic, so we might see some atrocities that the Republic committed. It's a war. Stuff's gonna happen.
right, right.
We're gonna see some dirty
I
sides
think
of
that
it.
would fit into the whole theme, which is like
Yeah,
there's no good guys, right? Like you were saying earlier. If we saw the
true.
Republic, which Star Wars fans often hold up as this like the good guys all the time, then
Hmm.
commit these atrocities, then that would make a lot of sense for why Cassian is a little like nihilistic, cynical about the cause. He's
True.
like, well, why would I want to bring back the Republic? They killed my whatever. So yeah,
Yeah, and it'd be really chilling, and also it would hit harder if we recognize some of the clones. I'm not saying like Rex or anything like that, but like some clones that we recognize from the Clone Wars kind of commit some just war atrocities.
Yeah.
Like there's no good people in this show, like I said earlier, and keep reiterating. It's just a common theme.
Yeah, so we'll have time to speculate more on Cassian's past and everything, like, or the what happened to get him to Canary, or what happened after
Uh
the
huh.
scenes that we find in the first three episodes. But um what do you think of just the general you do you like the family structure of like Cassian? It leaves Cassian a mystery, right? That we
Yes.
don't know who his parents were. We don't know if his sister died on Kanara. We don't know if she's still alive. Like, he got taken, and his memory goes from whenever he got to Canary to whenever he left. We have no inkling of what
Hmm.
happened before or after, and we don't know what happened to his sister or his parents. And I think that is so cool, and it sets up so many possibilities to find out more about him. um, I don't know. What'd you think about just the general, like, leaving it open kind of thing?
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of them leaving it open because it gives us the chance to discover Cassian's past with him.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
might be able to find his sister, and he'll find out what happened to his sister. That's going to bridge a lot of gaps, but we're going to learn that with him. So it just sets up this great journey for the viewer and Cassian. It sets up a lot of stakes, and yeah, I think it's a great idea. I like how they didn't lay out his entire past.
yeah. So back to the wrapping things up for the first three episodes. Luthen, basically convinces Cassian to come with him, and we get the whole big chain scene, and the chase, out of that.
Mhm.
There's really not much to talk about other than Tim's death, I guess. Was kind of tough,
Yeah.
but we do see Marva taken hostage a little bit and just get some Fiona Shaw chewing some scenery, um,
Mhm.
which I've always appreciated. I think watching those Harry Potter movies back, like, she she kills it as Petunia. Um,
She
and
does.
she's such a great actress. So I really love seeing her. Her and Cassian's, uh, dynamic was really interesting and really true to, like,
Mhm.
what it is to care for an aging relative. Uh, you know, I love
Yeah.
that dynamic. We've never seen that in Star Wars before. So yeah, so she's taken hostage. She mouths off to the soldiers a little bit. I loved the whole ringing the bells, that this is what a reckoning sounds like. What do you think about the whole town was basically anti-corporate, and
I love it.
they were all ready to fight, right?
As you know my political views, I loved it. I loved it. It shows that there's culture everywhere in Star Wars. Like each planet has a different culture, and it's so hard to think about. It's because I mean this is gonna sound like really nerdy and like off base, but we live on a planet, me and you. We don't know if there's any other planets in this world, but we have our own culture, and if there's any other life forms out there, they have their own culture, and this culture on what is it?
Ferrex.
Um, Ferrex. I mean, I don't know. It's very primal. And they all stick together. They band together, and
Mm,
that's what a reckoning sounds like. They know what a reckoning sounds like because they've been through it.
right.
They've had clones kill their own people in the streets. They had, the Empire come back in. They had freaking corpos come in and seize. So yeah, they know how to deal with it. They
Y-
got their own culture. They
yeah,
got
they
their own rites and rituals.
remember they said the corporate, what do they call them, the blues, they don't come around that often, and I guess
Uh,
we know why, because if they're this
yeah,
if they're this mad about, like, it's Cassian. They probably don't like Caspian that much. He's like the guy that swindles everybody, right? He's the Han Solo that everyone has a problem with.
yeah,
So the fact that they're defending him this strongly, maybe because of
yeah,
Marva more than anything, she seems like a really respected member of the community. But I
yeah.
loved getting to see, like, Star Wars Pittsburgh, like, like like blue collar steel workers that all band together,
Exactly.
and don't let anyone talk
And
down
we
to them.
see exactly, and how Brasso, Andor's friend, he tied a chain to one of their little drop
Yes,
ships,
that was so sick.
and that was awesome. I thought he was gonna plant a bomb or something, but no, that was so much better. Another thing I just wanted to say, it's kind of localized for you and me, and for other people listening to this podcast, but the pre-more security inspection team, their uniforms look like they're about to clock in at a shift at Whataburger.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I saw that and I was like, huh, that color scheme is very familiar.
I love the little detail of Surreal, the deputy inspector, uh, the chief inspector who's played by I think he played one of the Northmen uh, house like
Probably
in Game of Thrones.
in Game of
Um,
Thrones, yeah.
but he's like, your uniform looks nice, and he's like, some piping, some light
They
tailoring, whatever.
tailored
Yeah,
it.
he tailored
Yeah.
his own uniform. He's like this, the equivalent of like a bike cop, and he's tailored his own uniform. It's hilarious. um
Ugh.
but yeah, the speaking to your Dwight Schrute thing, it reminded me of when Jim says, this is the smallest amount of power I've ever seen go to someone's head. uh it's like he suits up and flies to this planet to root out this guy that basically ran from a traffic stop and killed these men who are
Yeah.
messing with him, and no one else cares but him. It's so great.
Oh,
um
what's a power trip?
yeah, so I really enjoyed the whole setup we got from the first three episodes. What'd you think about that dramatic ending to episode three? Because it was, man, it was powerful. It was a tearjerker
Oh yeah.
with the music.
I'm right
And
there with you.
yeah.
It was so good. So the ending to episode three, Luthen is taking Cassian off world to this heist that it's to this unknown place, and we also see him being taken away from Kenari. It kind of mirrors that. Cassian is never in control of his own life. He's always on to the next place. He's always being taken from somewhere. He never has. He never has the authority or control of like just leaving. It's always not his choice. And I think they did that perfectly. He's being thrown into this huge galaxy, into this huge
Yeah.
adventure that's going to end up with. I think this is very cool. This isn't my original thought, so this is from somewhere I read. But Cassian's been told what to do his entire life. He's been taken everywhere without anything. But in Rogue One, it's his own choice to go to Scarif.
Mm,
That's the one choice he makes. He does that, and it's so selfless. It's this one choice that he gets to make in his life, and he does it. And we
yeah.
know what happens.
Yeah, you think about, he's shuttled, if my theory is correct, and he has to leave one planet to go to Kenari to survive, and then from there he's taken to, I guess, Ferrix, and then at some point he goes into jail, and then he comes back to Ferrix, and then he's shuttled off to, I guess what we learned later is Aldani. Um,
Yes.
so he's being taken or moved to, or has to run away to different worlds, but he doesn't get to determine his own destiny. And we'll definitely see that in Rogue One. He certainly makes some choices. He's told to
Yep.
kill Galen, and he doesn't, right? uh,
Hmm.
and then he disobeys Mon Mothma, and him and Jin take the crew to go to Scarif, right? So he will, in time, like you said, be his own man, and I think that's really cool that we get to see the formulation of that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's this story's so cool. I can't wait. I can't wait to see how this bridges into Rogue One. Because as we heard, it's just the season two is going to lead right into Rogue One.
Yeah,
So we might see him like dealing with the informant.
yeah, yeah,
Or we'll see something. We'll see something. We might even see the Imperial Senate finally being dissolved, as we said earlier, because we see in episode four during the meeting with Grand Moff Tarkin and Vader, we learn that just like a few days ago or a few moments ago, the Imperial Senate was finally dissolved, and we
hmm,
might see that actually happen at the end of season two with Mon Mothma having to finally just get out of there.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll talk next episode about Mon Mothma and her family and her role in all this. That's
Yep.
incredibly interesting, and we'll get to touch more on
Mhm.
Luthen as a character. We didn't really get to explore his character in the first three episodes much, other than he's
Yeah.
this mysterious guy who's all things to all people, and he's like the ultimate spy, right? He's
Yep.
constructing these movements. So we'll get to see all that, which will be neat, and we'll talk about that next week. But yeah, what a great introduction to this story the first three episodes were, and we're really excited to keep on moving.
Yeah. So next week we're gonna go over episodes 4, 5, and 6, and we'll see how that elevates the story. Hopefully next week there'll be some news to talk about. It's been really dry ever since D23. There hasn't been a lot of stuff come out other than leaks that we're not going to cover. We'll cover those whenever they officially come out. So we'll get to there, but hopefully there's some news next week to go over. But yeah, I can't wait for this next episode.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. We'll be back next week after episode six, and to cover the second arc of this awesome show. And yeah, until
Mhm.
then, may the force be with you, and we'll see you next time.